Episode 396 of the 365 Message Center show. We are looking forward to talking about 5 messages today, but in a depth that will just compel you to stay to the very end. If my, compelling powers working on you. Anyway, we have the knowledge agent to talk about in SharePoint, powered by AI, of course. That has definitely had its moment in the sun, as people have talked about it. So we'll talk about it right here too. We'll also talk about the channel agent, and that sounds like, does something in Teams channels? Yeah, but there's a couple of special things that you'll want to hear more about. And lastly, Viva Engage agent in communities. Again, it sounds like we've already seen that before, but no, this agent's going to help us answer some questions. So if you've got questions now, stick around for the answers. Well, at least our attempt anyway. Let's go. Hey,
Daryl, it seems like this episode is brought to you by AI.
Look, it was off the top of my head. I did not create it with Copilot's help.
I will say, though, I'm looking over. It is.
Yeah.
It's all Copilot and AI. And
maybe it has something to do with Microsoft's focus at the moment.
Maybe. I mean, that makes sense. So welcome, everybody. Episode 396, I think, is what Daryl said.
Yes.
We're going to stick with that. This past week, Microsoft had a moment, as Daryl kind of alluded to, around AI in the M365 space. So a lot of that, we're going to talk about today because they also published messages telling it the story about the different features. So we're definitely going to cover that, but we want to also cover the fact that we want to engage with you. So please, if you have a comment as we go along, you're like, this is interesting. I have a comment about this. Well, throw it down below. If you're watching the video on YouTube, if you're listening on the audio podcast, just hit us up on one of the socials that matter at 365MCS and say, hey, here's my thought on this update. We'd love to engage with you and have conversation around that.
So what we think matters today is LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. I think, are we on Threads?
Sure.
Sure. Yep. Where else are we? Are we still on X?
Yep.
Okay. I ask that because I don't know, because I'm not there. And we have an email address.
Contact at 365mcs.com.
You notice how I paused there because I couldn't remember it, but Daniel knows.
See, this is why we're a good team.
Yeah. So, Daniel, I would like you to start and share your knowledge with us about this knowledge agent moment. It sounds like it was quite a moment. That was a collection of moments, but I'm sure that you'll be able to summarize this for us.
Wow. Okay. Introducing Knowledge Agent Preview. AI-powered content optimization for SharePoint and Copilot, MC1155312. So as Daryl alluded to, the Copilot and AI moment that was had this past week for M365 included the Knowledge Agent, which is a new feature that's embedded in SharePoint. Now, this is, of course, you have to have a Copilot license. Okay. But you also have to, while it's in preview, you have to enable this by using PowerShell. Yes, it's not a little switch and it's not automatically going to be there. You have to enable it, but it is something that you can use as it's not just a site owner. You can use this tool to do some really cool stuff. I did create a video. I posted it on X and LinkedIn, just kind of running through it very quickly. I did not cover all of the features, but what it does is it puts in a little icon in the bottom right. I'm very surprised they haven't named that, like given it a name like Joe or Sally or something. I don't know, something. It's just button. there's a SharePoint button, is a SharePoint icon, and it's kind of floating in the bottom right of the page when you're looking at SharePoint. And that's going to be available on your site homepage. It's going to be available when you're looking at other pages and document libraries and lists. And it can help you do some things. Okay. First of all, when you are in a library, it can help you structure your library. You can ask it to give some ideas for adding columns to this library based upon the content that's there. What other metadata columns, would be nice to have to help me categorize my content? And oh, by the way, it would also give you the metadata to put in those columns for you. So that's smart metadata. Now, I want to say, this is a really cool tool. Yes, I've actually had it for a little while as part of a private preview to kick the tires and fix the bugs. And there was some, but the biggest thing for me on this that is outside this kind of new functionality, but the biggest part about this is the metadata angle. Why would a new agent in SharePoint create new metadata when Copilot can't even use metadata? Well, in the blog post, it did specifically call out next month. So we're in September. So next month is October. There was a link also to the roadmap with this item on there. Next month, Copilot will recognize and use metadata. So, yeah. That's huge. We've been wanting that ever since Copilot came out, right? To be able to reason over your metadata, because we've been tagging stuff. We've been telling users tagging things is important. And they're like, really? Is it? Well, Copilot is now going to use it so we can say, yes, definitely. So it can help you with that. From an owner perspective of the SharePoint site, it can help you look at and find stale content. So like in my demo, I was doing it on a demo tenant. So it found pages that haven't been viewed or updated in 2 years. So you can archive that data or even delete those pages if you want. Now, just because it hasn't been viewed, maybe you don't, it doesn't necessarily you should delete it, right? We're not saying that, but it can help you just keep your content up to date, not stale, so their users can trust it. And remember, so Copilot can trust it as well. You can use Agent to generate pages. You can really, I'm finding there's you could create an agent. Some of this, it's not just the knowledge agent, but Copilot coming into SharePoint pages, into libraries where you can select files and then go up and say, Copilot, create me a new agent based on the files I just checked in this library. It's just another way of doing it rather than, creating an agent and then picking files. So it makes it pretty easy. But so there's some details there. But Daryl, it was part of this big moment, AI moment. I'm very excited about the idea that this is going to help with site owners to keep their content fresh and making sure their sites are not stale. That's what, it can also look at to find broken links, for instance. Cool. That's great. And I'm assuming there's going to be even more stuff later down the road, but what are your thoughts on this? Should we be excited? I'm excited about it, really, because of that. That's always been the problem as a SharePoint site owner. How do I make sure my content isn't stale without going and looking and being very, very proactive? So, what are your thoughts?
I know that there's some organizations that, whether they use it in an app or metadata and workflows, will put a column to say, this is the owner of the content and this is the review date. Go and check, and it will let people know as that date approaches, and they can check and manually do that. But this assisted approach of going to a page, going to a site, and getting that help by running Copilot through it is more interactive. I think probably will help the job feel more manageable. I think that cool that Copilot will help you with freshening that content up. I think it always applies, in my opinion anyway, that Copilot will give you a starting point, a draft, a thing to start from, but you need to bring your expertise or the SME's expertise into it to make sure that it's accurate and good. So I like that part of keeping things fresh. The metadata side of it, where one, it's preparing columns that we can add to libraries that don't have that. That, yay, we're going to be able to categorize the documents we have in our libraries with metadata based on the content in the documents. Again, I think that's a good start, that if you don't have something, it's going to create columns. I imagine there'll be standalone columns and choice columns and text columns. They're not going to be adding anything to your taxonomy and your term store. But one question that I have around this, and this of course will become a bit more apparent. It sounds like anyone who has contribute access to a site, who can change a document, can change a library, could kick this process off. And if you already have metadata columns in there, I would like to know kind of what effect this has, as, like, hey, we might have put a lot of hard work into structuring our libraries already. What will this do? So lots of questions, but I think, yeah, it's really a good, exciting start, especially that following thing, that when we go to Copilot now and we ask a question and we've got a query, that it's going to use the metadata to say, well, actually, your keyword that you had in your query here relates to these tags in these documents.
Next month.
Yeah.
Next. Yeah. I just emphasizing next month. So one thing that I did notice, even before the big moment, it had changed. Have you noticed that the Copilot button on SharePoint pages, up there at the top right, next to the announcements and the settings gear, that's changed? It is now this hexagon looking thing. It's not the Copilot logo. And that is actually called out in this message. It's the third bullet point under impact to SharePoint agent users. It says the SharePoint ribbon icon has changed from the Copilot logo to a hexagon. So that's a change that was kind of snuck in, to be honest, because if you were looking at that, it doesn't look like Copilot at all. It's just some kind of odd looking thing. And your users need to understand that if they want to get to the agents that have been created on your SharePoint site, that's how they actually would access those SharePoint agents. Not the knowledge agent, but the SharePoint agents. So
it kind of looks like a developer icon.
Yeah.
Like Visual Studio Code or something like that. But yeah, remember, I think we've got that button that we can now add to a page that can list the agents so rather than it being tucked away up here in the top right-hand corner, we can actually bring a prompt on the page for it.
Yeah, you could put the web part on a page, and so when someone clicks it invokes the SharePoint agent. So this is rolling out, now. We talked about that. You can enable the public preview. It is completed by late February is when the public preview is rolling out. So I have it, but just because I had already signed up for it, but as part of the private preview. But for this, I think you just wait for it to be available. You do have to have the updated PowerShell to be able to invoke this, but all the details there down the bottom. All right. Enough of AI. Let's talk about AI in Teams. Daryl, what is all about this channel agent? What is that?
Well, if maybe the theme of this moment was agentic AI, then we'll talk about a channel agent in Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams channel agent. And it's MC 1155329. 5, 3, 2, 9. This agent, it has an interesting role. If I can talk about something that was in our team's experience a little earlier, something called AI notes. We still have them in meetings, but they were for a little while added to our chats and channels, a way of summarizing what's going on with the conversations in the channel, which, okay, that's one use, but it got pulled back. And now we have a channel agent, which sort of does the same thing, but more in a targeted way and a few more things. So imagine an agent that you could ask it a question about the conversations in the channel, the files in the channel, it would appear to be even plans related to this channel. And you could get something of a summary to say, what's going on? What's the activity? You know, we're working on a project here in this channel. Give me a summary to help me catch up. So we can talk about that at our next meeting. And this channel agent will pull that summary together. It's going to use a loop file, and it will create that draft for the person who's bringing this summary together, so they can at least check it over and make sure it's right. And then they have the option to publish it. And I like the way that you can actually see it in the screenshots. Again, thank you for screenshots. Always like to call that out and shout out and say, yeah, good on your team. That once it's published, there's an example of the post in a channel using the threads format. I'm sure it's going to work in the post format too. The agent will make the post. It will put the summary as a loop in the channel, or rather in the post. So you can scroll through and read it. You could add to it as well because it's a loop file. So, you know, adjust it and make your notes. But because it's the start of a conversation, Daniel, and that the agent is leading it, guess what you can do?
What?
You can ask it questions about that summary. So what would you ask if that was posted there? And let's say that the project for us was we are preparing we're preparing for our first episode of a show with Tom Arbuthnot at Empowering Cloud. What would you ask that agent?
I would ask that agent probably, what are some of the, big announcements that maybe Microsoft has made around some of the messages, or I might ask, when is our next meeting time? When does the show start? That we're going to do. Has Tom posted any publication about highlighting, marketing it? So I could, I would ask lots of things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if Tom was also in that channel with us and we were discussing those sorts of things and maybe had files and drafts of things that he was preparing for that episode, the agent's going to be able to draw from that and answer questions.
Well, Daryl, that's, I have a question about this. I have two questions.
Question about questions?
Yes. It's kind of like, working out loud was like this whole thing, back in the day. Well, you're having this conversation with this agent, but it's being seen by everybody else.
Good point.
Right. So you're asking things and it's, I don't know if you feel stupid. Okay. So, sometimes when I'm asking Copilot stuff, it's because it's like, oh, I should know this. Please help me remember this. So just remember when you're having this conversation with the agent, other people are seeing that conversation, so they can jump in and join that conversation, right? I'd like to come back to that though, of an interesting point of what might happen if they do. But the other thing I wanted to mention is this planner integration. It says if you use the agent, so you can mention the agent, right? You can invoke the agent in the channel to assign a task to someone else that's in the channel. It creates a plan in Planner. Like every time it creates a new plan? So, or does it reuse a plan? I'm confused by that. And so I'm I hope we have some clarity around, because every
I
time I
have some
assign a
clues.
task, I get a new plan. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I know, like, this is becoming a longer message, and maybe we'll do a deep dive and explore this a bit as the feature comes in. But my
yeah,
assumption is this: a typical channel, you can go to the tab and create a plan for that, right?
yeah,
Like we create planner. Independently, think of a loop page or even meeting notes that your follow-up tasks that you've got at the bottom, when you add the
yeah,
task block into a loop page, it creates a planner as well. But it is a plan that is attached to that
yeah,
loop, not
yeah.
to the channel.
Right.
And so that those list of tasks that are inside your summary that the channel agent has come up with are
Yeah,
in a plan, yes. Making it manageable, yes. Yet another plan, yes. Um, so you could manage it using your planner tools still and assign it to yourself and say, I'm adding it to my day list or whatever. Or what I've done sometimes is I've moved that task into a more established official plan using the planner way of doing that. Anyway, that's my assumption.
yep. But
Yeah.
I would like to quickly go and to that comment that I made is, so
Mm,
you're replying to the chat, the agent that has started this thread, right?
yep.
And you're asking it a question. So someone else sees that you're asking that question. So they jump into the thread to answer your question. What do you think is going to happen when they jump into that thread and post?
Well, we don't know this, but I can imagine a scenario where the agent has started the thread or the
Yeah.
post, and it's going to try and helpfully interrupt your conversation with that other person. Oh, I know about that. Let me tell you about that. Well, hey, channel agent, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to Daniel. Did I mention you here? No. I know I'm in your thread, okay, but just can you just for a moment? I'm talking to Daniel. That's where I can
The
see it
adults are talking.
possibly going.
Okay.
Yeah,
Shh, the adults are
the
talking.
humans are talking. Butt out, man. Yeah, no, we don't know. Maybe you still have to mention the channel agent in the thread to get it to respond. Who knows? But
Maybe.
if it's been too helpful,
I mean, in the screenshot, I will say, in the examples, I don't know if it's a screenshot or if it's a Figma, but the person does mention the agent in the thread, and then the agent
yeah,
replies. So maybe you do have to mention the agent to get a response. So, and I think that
yeah.
probably is a good way of doing it.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so. Anyway,
Okay.
this we have talked about this at length, my man. Um, Getting back into the message, I'm using split screens in Edge, and every time I go back and do stuff, anyway, I'll do a video on that as well. The targeted release. When is this arriving? Public preview will begin rolling out in mid-September and expected to be complete by mid-October. So we're only looking at public preview at the moment. They haven't got any other time frames. Probably a good idea. They want to get some feedback before they start rolling out wider. Next message, we'll be talking now about Copilot again.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
This is Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft 365 in parentheses. Use Copilot with OneDrive files in File Explorer and Activity Center, MC1155433. This is basically bringing Copilot and OneDrive on the desktop together to do fun stuff. So the first one that is in Activity Center. So Activity Center is when you click on the OneDrive, and we're talking about Windows here, right? You click on the OneDrive, and it brings up the sync status of files, right? So you can check out, okay, what files have synced. You could also click on them and say, I want to open this file, or I want to share this file, manage access, all that cool stuff. But now you're also going to be able to summarize it with Copilot, create a fax, which should sound familiar because you can do that now with a document in OneDrive Online. Now you're going to be able to do it there, or ask a question about that document. So I don't necessarily find it that useful. It might be useful, maybe, but that list of files is pretty limited, in that view. What is more useful is it's actually also coming to Windows File Explorer. And so when you right click on a file that is uploaded to OneDrive, you will be able to do those same things in the OneDrive flyout menu, in the context menu, to be able to summarize, create a fax, or ask a question right there. I think this is great. It is bringing those two cool things together. Copilot on the machine, yes, I want to do that, but I also want to use OneDrive. I use OneDrive like all the time. It's probably my most used resource in Microsoft 365, to be honest, even more than Teams. So loving this. It is coming very soon. So it, I think it's very interesting. General availability for this, beginning rollout late August. Look behind you, because that's where late August was. General availability worldwide, GCC High, DoD, beginning to roll out late August and expected to be completed by mid-September. And I think, again, this is something that I feel like it's going to become, for those Copilot users, it's going to become very common. This is the way you're going to be. If you interact with your files on the desktop at all, you're going to be doing this kind of work. So I'm actually kind of excited about this one. It's kind of one of those expected things, to be there, and now it is. Darryl, I'd like for us to move on to the next message and change it up a little bit. Let's talk about Copilot, maybe.
Oh, yeah. But let's talk about how you might be spending money on Copilot. So let me get up my, calculator here and put on my accountant's hat, and have like paper flying everywhere. No. Okay. Microsoft 365 Admin Center pre-purchase capacity packs for Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat MC1155434. Let's get our Copilot costs under control. Right. How do we spend money on Copilot today? None. We're going to use the free version. Ha. Okay. But to encourage us, there's somewhere between the free version and the paid version. Paid version, pay some money per user per month, and they'll get access to the M365 Copilot capabilities. Well, how do we try this stuff out in between? How do we make, actually, more importantly, all this cool SharePoint agent stuff, to be able to use that, we actually need a Copilot license. But what's in between that? Maybe we can do this pay-as-you-go. Yeah, so we've had pay-as-you-go for a little while now, and that is built into, what was it, the Power Platform? I think it's leveraging something there because they also have a similar kind of concept where with the Copilot, you could allow people to consume and use these agents in SharePoint, asking questions, Copilot chat style, and it would run up a nice bill. Depending on what your query is, and this is here's the mind-bending stuff. If it's a simple one, then it's only going to cost you the massive sum of one message. If it's a deep query of some sort with a researcher thing, that's going to cost you 5 messages. So end user, you should keep track of what type of questions they're asking because you're spending us money. So the middle ground here is a pay-as-you-go system you can set up, but the challenge being, organizations are worried about blowing out their costs. What if people actually find this really useful and they ask Copilot questions and they keep asking Copilot questions? What if they keep generating images, Daniel, and they go, no, don't like that one. Okay, no, don't like that one either. Here's another 4. Here's another 4.
But also what counts as a message?
Yeah.
Generating that image, is that 1? Is that 4?
Yep. Yeah. Did you ask the creator agent to create a video? Oh, that's 10 messages. But anyway, the concern for organizations is, does this make the bill run away and get away on you? So now we're finally getting to the essence of the message. Pre-purchase capacity packs. Rather than putting yourself in pay-as-you-go mode where you just let it go and then you try and reconcile that bill at the end and say, hey, you're spending too much time creating images, we can put something of a limit on it and pre-purchase that capacity. And when it runs out, then we've got to get another pack. Now, I think actually in the pay-as-you-go thing, you did get to set a limit anyway, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
you can do that via your spending, and this prepaid is really, it's targeted for those Copilot agents that you've created in the Power Platform Admin Center. So, those custom Copilot agents using Copilot Studio. And
right.
That's where these are targeted. But I feel like if this catches on, this might be, turn into even something they might do for, like regular SharePoint agents or stuff like that. But getting control over spending is huge when you're trying to deploy one of these, right, Daryl?
Yeah.
Of one of these custom agents. So,
So yeah, I think, look, that's the facility, and thank you for calling out that it's not necessarily SharePoint agents, but for Copilot Studio stuff. This will become available, targeted release rolling out late September and complete by late September. Ta-da! Or general availability worldwide, complete rolling out by late September, complete by early October. Oh, early October 2026. Maybe that's a typo.
I think it probably is.
Yeah. It'll be a long 13 months to roll that feature out.
Really?
We'll finish on something else Copilot-y, but let's bring it home to community scene.
Indeed, let's do it. Updated Viva Engage agents in Viva Engage communities public preview. This is MC1155311. So it is updated. They just updated some of the content the day after they released this message. So again, as part of the moment, the Copilot, M365 Copilot moment we had last week, was really around Engage and how Copilot is now coming into Engage as an agent to help you answer questions that are being asked in your community. So think about, you've got people asking questions, whether it's about, what is the plan for this project, or if this is a community about upskilling on a particular, product, or whatever it is, whatever the community is, you can have people wanting and desiring answers, and others reading those answers. Well, if there's not an answer, then you're in a bit of a world of hurt. Well, this agent is going to help you do that. It's going to help you create a response, an answer to questions that don't have one, and be able to derive that answer from the content within the community. So being able to kind of, I will say it's pretty useful when you think about a lot of questions seem to have answers, not all of them, but a lot of them seem to have the answer already in the community if people just kind of took a look around and read more. Kind of like everything else and social media and everything else where, people are like, hey, I have a question. It's like, oh, please read everything prior before asking your question. But this is Copilot's, this agent's going to help that, agent in Viva Engage. For right now, Daryl, that's what it's using the community content. But soon, when its message says it's in general availability, it will also include content from the SharePoint site, which you remember there's a SharePoint site that's backing an Engage community for file storage and such. So that's kind of cool, right? Getting more, we can use more knowledge from SharePoint to help this agent answer questions in the future.
Yeah, that's really great. Is it only going to be the site behind the Viva community, or can you point it towards another site that you could scope it to?
Yeah, so right now it's just this community, the community's conversations. At general availability, it will be the site that's backing it, but admins can actually point to additional SharePoint sites
Nice.
for grounding of that knowledge for that agent. So yeah, because oftentimes there will be what I in my experience, when you have a community that's about a topic and a focus group of people, engaging. Sorry, no pun intended. Then there's often resources like maybe on your intranet that have to do with that. Maybe even an intranet communications site that is about this topic or related. And so you as an admin will be able to point to that and say, there's a knowledge source too. So yeah, it's absolutely. This is rolling out very soon. I mean, like last week. Agents in Communities public preview begins September 18th, expected to be completed by late September 2025. The SharePoint grounding public preview worldwide begins late September. So it's coming pretty soon, right after this. Late September 2025 through early October, and then general availability worldwide. So removing the preview mark begins late January of 2026 and expect to be completed by late February 2026. That's it. We have talked your ear off, ladies and gents, about AI. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments. Give us some your thoughts on all this. What did Microsoft get right? What did they get wrong? How are you going to use some of this in your organization? We'd love to hear that. Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you for spending your moments about us talking about Microsoft's moment, or Microsoft 365 Copilot's moment. And take a moment to let us know all about that. Anyway, we'll see you in a moment, maybe next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Terrible jokes.